You ready for this, Niels? Perfect. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Food and Beverage Productivity Webinar. My name is Zach Ostis. I'm a Senior Account Executive here with Factbird. This is a cool picture of me when I had longer hair and a longer beard. I have since wanted to reduce my shampoo and conditioning output, so I have cut everything off, shaved. So I feel much better. Life is good. Pleasure being here with you guys. I also have a co-host here who I'm going to introduce very shortly. But the first thing I'd like to do is explain to you who Factbird is, who we are, and why we're presenting this. We're a manufacturing intelligence suite. Essentially, what we do is we are an entire intelligence suite that is aimed towards enabling manufacturers to collect, manage, and analyze real-time production data to enhance operational efficiency, reduce waste, understand and locate bottlenecks, register downtime, so on and so forth. Initially, we were born out of a consulting group for a specific task of doing the aforementioned tasks of locating bottlenecks, calculating OEE, and so forth. So if there's any testament to who we are and what we do and how we can meet our customers' needs, I think it's right there in our DNA, right? We were born specifically to help our customers analyze their production data and improve it. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce my co-host, good friend, Principal Analyst and Research Director. It's a great title. At LNS Research, please, round of applause, everybody, for my good friend, Niels Andersen.
Thank you, Zach. And as you can see, I'm lagging behind Zach here in hair and beard, but I'll do my very best. So excited to be here at this webinar, and thank you for everyone who's joining. I'll just take you through some slides about our research around LNS. And first, I want to just introduce who LNS Research is. We are an advisory firm based in the United States, but we have global presence. And our primary goal is to make manufacturing companies more productive. And we do that through our mission and vision. Our mission is to empower industrial leaders to transform organizations. We are very focused on industrial transformation when other companies are more focused on digital transformation because we believe it's around people, processes, and technologies. And our vision is a world where industrial companies are agile, autonomous, and sustainable. And we are here to help them on that path. So we want to talk a little bit about CEOs and the challenges they have in the food and beverage industry in particular. Through our research, we identified 3 mega trends that almost every company that we work with is challenged with. The first one is the rapidly changing workforce. And we see that on 2 ends. We see that there's a lot of people retiring. And so we have a lot of expertise and a lot of tenure that is going out of the company and that they can't retain. And then we also have a struggle on the hiring side. And particularly in the United States, we struggle with getting people that are interested in manufacturing. Most kids in school don't really want to go into manufacturing. They look at it as dull and dangerous and dirty. And once they hire, we also struggle with retaining them within manufacturing. They leave early. We hear stories about people that are hired and they leave before lunch. So it's really a challenge. Then the second mega trend we're seeing is around AI, and in particular, the combination of the generative AI, but also the other forms of AI and the birth of AI agents within our systems. And AI is really going mainstream. And we see that the companies who are able to leverage that are much more successful than the ones who don't. And the third element is around the growing supply uncertainty and risk in supply chains. And we've gone through a number of disruptions, from COVID-19 through what happened in the Suez Canal, the geopolitical debates, trade barriers, and so on. And all of these are introducing uncertainty into how manufacturing is operating. So with that as a backdrop, I just want to go in and talk about what we call the degrading base case. So what is happening in manufacturing right now is that these challenges are really challenging productivity as well. And the first place we see this is around worker safety. So when we lose expertise, the workplace actually becomes less safe. And we've seen a steady drop in fatality rate. This is US numbers from the US Department of Labor, the number of fatalities per 100,000 workers per year. And we saw a steady drop until about 2016. And then after 2016, and particularly as we got into COVID, went through COVID, and the changes in the workforce and the people retiring, we see an increase in fatalities. And we see fatalities and safety issues as a leading indicator of everything else that's going on in manufacturing. After safety, we also see that there are quality issues. It's the same type of scenario we have on the safety side. But again, very clearly it was down in 2021. And since then, it has actually been increasing. So these are escapes, they're recalls of manufacturing, where people are actually doing something on manufacturing site and they don't catch it, and it gets out to the consumer, and now you have to recall it. And this has enormous economic impact on the manufacturing companies, and also has safety issues on the people consuming food. In this case here, listeria of people that they ate some food that had bacteria in it. And the impact of this is both close down plants, decreased efficiencies, of course, all the health issues, and major impact on the brands. So really something we need to avoid. And the third element of this that we're going to talk about is productivity. So, safety and quality is something we have to have as a baseline, as a given, and we just have to fulfill that. And then we have to make sure we make money on this as well. And LNS Research, we've done studies on productivity. We created what's known as an industrial productivity index, where we looked at, in our first study, about 339 companies, all global companies, but all publicly traded in the United States, so we can compare the financial numbers. And then we looked at the trend, and what is shocking to see is how productivity has dropped since 2004, which is the first year we had it, until 2020, and then picked up somewhat after that. And the biggest issue here is actually not in the food and beverage industry. I'm going to show you the numbers for food and beverage in a second. The energy industry has been the biggest driver of this, but overall, it is an issue that we have invested so much in technology, but we haven't been able to see the right results. And I think a lot of that is tied to complexity. And you may ask, so why did we have an increase in 2021 and 2022? A lot of that is driven by the fact that demand for products, for things that are produced, went up after COVID. And because people were home, they didn't go out and buy services, and now they bought products instead. And that when you have increased demand, you get a natural increase in productivity. So let's talk a little bit about productivity and how do you measure it. And one of my favorite quotes is from Lord Kelvin. He said that if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. I like to turn it around and say that you must measure the things you want to improve. So when we measure productivity, we created a framework where we basically are looking at the ratio of outputs divided by inputs. And the outputs is typically revenue, and the inputs is cost of goods sold, including depreciation and amortization of the assets and maintenance of the assets, so not just the raw materials themselves. And then in order to really adjust this, what we have done is that we have adjusted for consumer price index and producer price indexes within each industry or within each category for each company that are producing these things, so we can get a relative measure of productivity. And that allows us then to find the companies that are more productive over time and are increasing productivity over time. And if we take a look here at the food and beverage industry, and specifically what happened in that, you will see that food and beverage has actually fared better than the overall industries, which is good. And we also saw the bump after COVID. We saw that the increase here, and a lot of that's because people were eating at home and been buying more produced food. So that was a great way of increasing productivity, I guess, but not a great way for the health perspective. Then what we do within each category of which in industry is that we identify Pathfinders. And these are companies that in 2 periods have performed well. We basically here did a baseline in 2020, and we said that for the companies we're going to call Pathfinders, they were both doing better than the average within their industry segment in the period from 2017 to 2020. And then they excelled from 2020 and were the leaders in that period. And we identified here, you see here's a list of the companies within the food and beverage industry that we have analyzed. And we identified 3 companies that are Pathfinders. And, see, 3 of them are, all these 3 on the top here are actually doing alcoholic beverages. And, I hope that's not a sign of what people did after COVID, but it's definitely an area where we see there's been a lot of investments in productivity. People have created specialized systems, repeatable systems that in order to achieve that. And these companies, we go back and we analyze them, they have long-term strategies. They are very structured innovation engine. They are very focused on delivered quality, and they have really operating models that allow them to execute very, very significantly. And you can see that some of these companies are doing significantly better. I mean, when we have a ratio from 2020, which is our baseline here, to 2023, when we have a 1.375, that means a 37.5% increase in productivity, which is a very, very significant number. So what is it that makes these Pathfinders more productive? Well, first of all, let's take a look at what is the difference between the leaders and the followers in the productivity category. So we have gone in and analyzed a large number of companies, and we surveyed them and we looked at the financials, and we've seen that for the ones who are leaders in this productivity field, they have a 36% higher operating margin, so that's very significant. They have a 34% higher throughput, 32% higher capacity utilization, and 22% higher uptime. So these are all very desirable features. And if you go in and take a look at what are they actually doing different, we've identified 4 categories where they are doing something that the followers are not doing. And the first thing we call make things different. So they have unique products and unique production processes. And you may say, well, that's not the job of operations. And our argument is that it is actually, because operations need to make the products. And it's very clear when we talk to these companies, they're very happy to share what they're doing on the IT side. If we go in and start talking about what is happening in manufacturing, they are saying that those are the secrets, those ones that are really special. Secondly, they are building trust and transparency across their supply chain. And this is both an IT side, so they're sharing data. It's also a cultural element where they're collaborating with their suppliers, they're collaborating with their buyers, they're being transparent, information as sharing. And one of our mantras is that a collaborating supply chain will beat a competing supply chain every day. But unfortunately, most supply chains are actually competing. They're behaving as if their customers and their suppliers are competitors, and they're squeezing them too hard instead of working together with them. The third element we call growth and innovation from anywhere. It's really about the operating model that these companies have built internally in order to operate well. It's about how they have leadership. They typically have one leader for all of industrial operations within at least a business unit. They have one culture that is well known within our organization that they operate against, and they have one strategy that is very tightly aligned with their enterprise strategy. So they actually built an operational strategy that is aligned with enterprise strategy. And out of that, they built an operating model that defines the way that they do work, and they do that very efficiently. The fourth element we found was around delivered quality. And it's actually quite interesting because when we do our surveys, do our research, we create hypotheses, and we actually hadn't put that up as a large hypothesis, but the research data showed it very clearly. That if you focus on delivering quality, so having products that meet the brand promise and deliver on the brand integrity, then everything else seems to fall in place because it gives them predictability in their product, in their production. It gives them predictability in their organization. It gives them motivation to their people. And this is not about procedural enforcement where you're just saying, oh, you must follow all these rules. This is about creating a product and services that people actually want to buy and that delivers on the promise you have. So those are the 4 baselines we have from our research. So one of the things we've seen, we actually seen many elements that are critical here, but at the very core of it is that companies must choose to do the things that are right. And we see a lot of companies that choose to just follow what everyone else is doing, and that clearly is not working. You have to go in and identify what is your company's trying to do? What is your enterprise strategy? What are the dimensions around those strategy? And how can you map that into operations and what you're going to do in operations? And in our research here, we identified 5 areas. We actually have a 6th one that we're talking around growth, but we have 5 areas that we see our enterprise strategies that are clearly linked to operation. And then we mapped out and said, okay, if your strategy is to be innovation, and therefore your competitive advantage is first to market, then the customer value proposition is desirable and innovative products. And then in operations, you have to go in and be very good at new product introduction and time to volume. Cost is an obvious one. You have to create margins, you have to be profitable, but we see that too many companies are only focusing cost, and you can only squeeze down the cost so much, and it doesn't add additional value. But if you want to be a cost leader, you have to be very efficient, low-cost infrastructure. If you want to have responsiveness, so be able to make sure you can sell the products that companies want to buy, customers want to buy, and have customer intimacy, you need to have capacity and flexibility within your manufacturing, and have integrated business planning and visibility across your supply chain. Same thing also if you want to have delivered quality and competitive advantages, brand integrity, that people actually know what they're buying when they're buying your product. You need to have process capabilities, so be able to have stability within your processes, and then need to have risk management, and you need to really embed this into your culture. And finally, if you need to want to have sustainability as your strategy, it's very important that you have understanding of why you source and what you consume, what your waste is, so that you have a very efficient operations, and you have recycling, and you don't create waste and emissions that are unnecessary. And when we talk to manufacturers, they really latch on to this type of approach, because they say, okay, now we can give meaning to what we're doing in operations, and we can actually align it to what the business is trying to do, instead of creating a strategy that is disconnected from the business itself. So some recommendations that we have to the listeners here today, first of all, go in and make sure you align operations, your activities in your IT and OT with your business objective, and create one organization that pull in the same direction. If you have people within your company that say that I'm on the sales team or the marketing team or the manufacturing team, you're probably divided your organization too far down. You have to be on a company team. Second of all, measure the things you want to improve and turn them into action. So once you've said that this is what I want to achieve, go and break it down into a strategy map, identify what you actually want to measure, and then take actions against those things. Don't go in and choose a metric just because someone else does it. Then learn from the productivity pathfinders, the research we have, make things different, have supply chain collaboration, have one organization and mindset and culture, and focus on delivered quality in order to be successful. And then finally, leverage the power of digital tools. We have this framework we call an intelligent supply network, where we create architectures for how information can be gathered and shared and executed upon within your organization, including from AI agents. But go in and build a framework that allows you to be flexible and to grow. We also have some research, and you're probably going to share these links with you later. So these are blogs that are available to everyone on our research website. So they're not just for our members. So we have some, and it relates to all of these elements here around our Pathfinder works, our strategy work, our operational excellence work, our future of industrial work, our analytics. So all of those elements are within it. So with that being said, by the way, feel free to connect with us. Both you can connect with me on LinkedIn, just scan this code, or go to my LinkedIn. If you follow me, I'll follow you back. If you connect with me, I'll accept that. Or go into LNS Research and sign up for the more information from LNS Research. And that's all I have from my side, Zach. So over to you.
Round of applause for Niels Andersen, everybody. Amazing. I don't even know how I'm supposed to follow that, Niels, but I will give it.
You'll be fine.
I will give it my best. It almost seems like we haven't even been rehearsing this every day for the last week. You know what I mean? You did a great job. To kind of piggyback off what Niels was mentioning in this digital infrastructure and the number of tools and suites that you'll utilize to increase productivity and things like that, I just want to further dig into FactBird and introduce a little bit more by going into some case studies for some companies that we have. I know one of the things he was talking about was making decision-making based on data and analytics. That's really the name of the game. That's what we do. It's what we provide, and that's what we're here for. We're trying to standardize measuring across lines and sites. So I know he had mentioned that as well. One thing that we are really good at is creating an organizational hierarchy, right? So you can have an entire data lake that not only spans your current facility, but multiple facilities. So for enterprise organizations, regional managers, and C-suite personnel are able to look at specific line data from an eagle-eye view, right? So they can tap into specific facilities. Maybe they don't need to dig deep into, exactly what the downtime metrics are, exactly what line-specific downtime causes are, but they want to see how the facilities are performing and compare and contrast those. And we're able to do that by creating that data lake, by creating that hierarchy to provide you with the data so you can make better decisions. And to kind of dig a little bit deeper into that, we're going to talk about a couple different case studies. So one customer that we have in the food and beverage industry is American meat companies. So they came to us and really with their need was to know how many pounds per minute that their meat grinders were producing, and they wanted to understand performance metrics such as uptime, capacity utilization, and throughput. And what you can see from this screen here is just our live data, right? So this is a live data metric. We're grabbing some of the live data specifically on that window. You can see the KPIs below for your performance dashboard. We can look at live data in specific time windows, such as 4 hours, 8 hours, an entire day, or we can actually look at shifts, right? So if we want to look at shift 1 compared to shift 2, if we want to look at specific work orders, we can do so as well. And we can also project this out onto different monitors if we wanted to just look at the specific work order or the shift, or if we just wanted to look at the real-time data. What they were able to do with this data is identify their bottlenecks, analyze their detailed downtime causes, and use that data to plan staffing. There's another thing that Niels has kind of mentioned. The different organizations within your facility are able to utilize FactBread a number of different ways, from your schedulers creating the work order scheduling, to your operators registering downtime and keeping your production going, maintenance, right? We have maintenance tasks and a maintenance tab to keep up with all those metrics as well. And really what we want to do in the name of the game is increase that OEE. So what American Meat was able to do through our system was increase that OEE1 from about 29% to 36%. So 7% within 3 months. It's very good ROI. They were very happy with it. And they were also able to increase their speed while manned from about 25 strokes per minute to 32 strokes per minute, 27.6% increase. Quick math, right? That's good. That's what we like to see. And what you're seeing here is actually the OEE tab from our manufacturing suite, from our intelligence suite, that essentially just takes exactly what the timeline you're looking at and breaks it down to every single part of that day that was inhibiting your ability to produce, right? Whether it's facility down, planned maintenance, batch changeovers, and then again, everything that would happen during production. And we break that down through multiple different OEEs. So you're not able to just see what your uptime and downtime is, but you're able to categorize all of that downtime. And that's what they were able to do. Okay. Our second case study is Wente Vineyards. This is a great picture. Wente is a nice vineyard out in California. If you like red wine, specifically Cabernet, if you're asking me, go to Wente. They're fantastic. They have good wines. What they're doing is they're bottling and labeling specifically on one line, and what their major interests was tracking and improving their changeovers. So specifically switching in different bottles. They have a number of different bottles, different sizes, different labels, corks, screws, so on and so forth. And they wanted to figure out exactly which batch changeovers were taking the longest and where they can improve through that downtime that was caused by the changeovers. And what you can see here is a specific analytics page dedicated to just batch changeovers, how often it's taking, how long it's taking. You can also say how long is shift 1 taking to change batches, how long is shift 2 taking to change batches, and that was the information they wanted. And that's what we gave them. Another thing that they're really interested in is analyzing those trends. So one thing we can do is grab all those KPIs, all those metrics, and just give you all of the trends based on, from the day one that you implement this software up until when you have to present or when you have to actually look at the data. One thing that we were able to do with them is increase their line speed due to understanding optimal speeds. That's another thing. I didn't touch on that with American Meats, but what they're doing at American Meats is they have multiple different types of meat coming down, but just one line. In the past, the problem with that is you would basically say, I got ground beef coming in, I got steak coming in, chicken coming in. But if you're only looking at line speed, you're comparing apples to oranges. What we're able to do is create those work orders and create those products for that line. So we can create different expected speeds for different products so that we can compare apples to apples. And that's what they wanted to do. Tons of different types of products coming down one line, but each product has its own specific expected speeds, and they wanted to make sure that they're analyzing that correctly, and that's what we were able to do. All their performance information is in one place, right? So you don't have to worry about Excel sheets or installing the software on multiple different laptops. Basically, if you can access the web, you can access all of this data. What they were able to do is reduce their changeover time by 7%, increase their line speed by 3.5 pieces per minute, and they increased their OEE2, which is that batch over OEE, from 44% to 50%. You can see specific data on that from that metric there. Yeah, and the last thing is just a couple different food and beverage customers that we were able to bring in. Some highlights from G2, high performer, momentum leader, greatest webinar hosts of all time. That we didn't put that in, but that's going to be in there sooner that's going to be in there. But we're very happy with what we're doing, as I mentioned before. And yeah, that's what we've got. I'm trying to bring us back on stage, but I'm not going to lie to you. This is my first time using this. And there we go. We're back. Awesome. Q&A session. Niels.
Yes.
Welcome back to the party. Hi, Niels. With so many digital tools and software available, what criteria do you recommend using when selecting the right vendor?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, I would start at the top. Do business with people you like. Make sure you choose people that understand the domain, that understand the industrial background. It's not just about technology. It's also understanding your business problems, your business needs. And then also choose to go in and work with companies that have an open mindset. You know, you have existing machines, existing technologies, and you have you need to go in and integrate into that. You need to be able to coexist with that, and choosing companies that are open to doing that, are willing to collaborate, and willing to improve or change the things that need to be changed and keep the things that need to exist is absolutely critical.
I would agree. And especially with so many different tools that are available, right? Make sure that those tools are able to coexist with each other. You want to be able to integrate one tool with the other tool without, you know, having redundancy, right? So
well-defined APIs, good combination of things, what is on premise in the cloud, but in general, find people you want to do business with and work with those.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jack, for the question. Next question. I don't know how to switch question. There we go. Niels, in your experience, what's the most effective way to align production optimization initiatives with overall business strategy? Coming in from Amelia. I know she works with Factor too. Thanks, Amelia, for the question.
Thank you. That's a great question. Maybe it's a second webinar. It's very big. We have a whole framework for how to build an industrial operations strategy. And the critical part of it is to understand that operations is part of the business. You start at the core and really go back and get an understanding of where you are as a company and what you're trying to achieve, or what you want to achieve, what the business wants to achieve, and really work around that. Basically understand what your objectives are, understanding where you are, and then create a path from where you are to what you want to achieve. We see one of the most critical elements is to create what we call an operating model. You know, the one that many have heard about is like Toyota Production System, and that's very well known. But we see most of the companies we're working on have created their own. For instance, Danaher has created Danaher Business Systems. GE Aviation's created GE Flight Deck. And they're all very clear operating models that helps the people that work in operations do the right things. And then if you think about how you're organized, you know, go in and make sure that it's not just about hierarchies. It's about how you communicate. It's about how you share information, how you get people to work together in order to achieve those goals. I know that's a very vague answer to a very big questions here, but there's definitely a framework behind it in order to achieve these things. And I think the first element is awareness and communication. Make sure you fully understand what the business is trying to achieve.
Great. Thanks for the question, Amelia. Thanks for the answer, Niels. Niels, again, towards you. They're loving you, Niels. This is crazy. Naoko's coming in hot. Hi, Niels. Using digital tools is a necessary first step, but it often raises concerns about the need for extensive training of frontline workers, which can become another challenge. So how do we
address that?
Next slide.
It's great. So, you know, one of our messages, by the way, is that you need to have industrial transformation, not just digital transformation. So digital is an enabler. It is a very, very powerful tool, but it's not the only thing. So we talk about people, processes, and technologies, and we talk about them transforming with people. And a lot of it is really, again, went back to how you communicate and how you work with people, understanding what their needs are, understanding what the business's needs are, and making sure you take them with you on a journey. A lot of companies fail in that they transform for people or to people. They go in and they force new technologies on them without having worked with the people themselves. And if you do that, even though the tools might be good, then you quite often end up with resistance. And also, and I think it's critical to choose technologies that are easy to use. We quite often hear the story, everyone is using computers now. I mean, it's different from 30 years ago when a lot of people came into the workspace without really having used a computer. Now we have all the digital natives coming in, but we have to build user experiences that are consumer grade plus. I mean, they must be as easy to use as it is when you go in and use, whether it's TikTok or your banking application or YouTube. You must create user experiences that are that easy to use so that people feel at home in it, that they feel like they are actually getting something out of it. They're not just feeding data into it. And then, of course, creating career path, the future of industrial work, making sure people feel that they can get trained, both around the concepts and the technology and the processes, and feel that they're included. And investing in the people is absolutely critical.
Yeah, and to kind of touch on that too, choose your digital tools that there may be an upfront learning curve, but in the end, there's going to be less training required, right? It's like we could still be downloading MapQuest and printing that off and figuring out how to get to the restaurant, or you can just download Apple Maps, right? And figure it out from there, punch it in. It's going to take you a second to figure out how to use Apple Maps, but once you do, you're like, oh man, I don't have to download, I don't have to print off MapQuest pages anymore. This is nice. So yeah, find those digital tools where there might be a little bit of a curve in the beginning, but the long run, right, is an easier to use platform. This is for me. It's my turn, Niels. This for Zach. Do you see a common pattern in how successful food and beverage manufacturers decide what to optimize first? Like downtime, yield, changeovers. How does, I don't know what the rest of that question is, but we'll just jump off of what we have. I see the biggest pattern being downtime recognition. I think a lot of food and beverage manufacturers got into the habit of just uptime, downtime, right? Turning the machine on. When's the machine running? When's the machine not running? But there's so many different elements that are at play when determining how efficient you're actually running. Are you actually supposed to be producing right now? Are you actually supposed to be changing batch overs right now? Is there planned meetings and trainings? Did you plan those meetings and trainings at an efficient time to allow yourself to produce as much as you possibly can produce? Are your orders going out on time and in full, right? And all those things kind of come back to what is causing downtime. And it's not just uptime, downtime. Where is the bottleneck, right? So you have one machine, but are you cutting? Are you packaging? Are you slitting? Are you coating? What are you doing on this machine? Where is the bottleneck coming from? Where can we focus all of our time and energy? And I think that is right now what a lot of food and beverage manufacturers are trying to analyze. Where at in their line and in their process is their actual downtime coming into play? Sure, after we figure out and hone in our efforts at solving some of the problems with our production, then we can move over to other things such as more efficient changeovers, more efficient scheduling of our meetings and trainings. And I think that's the beauty behind our software is we're not just telling you what the uptime and downtime is, we're giving you the data so you can make better decisions, right? Let's focus on the production side of things and make sure we're producing while we're supposed to be producing as efficiently as possible. And then once we iron out all those issues, let's, move laterally over to other areas that we can improve. Batch changeovers, scheduling of meetings and trainings, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and Zach, just to extend on that, we've seen very much the same thing. Just knowing that the machine is down is not enough. You need to know, the context, what are you making, what the machine doing, the ability to have recent codes associated with it. You need to have automatic detection of downtime, in particular if you want to avoid micro stoppages, which quite often get ignored in manual applications because people it's too much work to record a downtime, and therefore they don't do it. And it's not just about downtime at that point either. We see that most of the safety incidents happen when the machine goes down, because then people have to go and interact with the machine, which is it's dangerous. You have situations where people are rushed and feel under pressure, and that creates safety issues. And then we also see that when machines go down, you end up with quality issues. So even though you're focusing on the downtime, you are actually increasing yield in that process, because every single stop typically creates some element of scrap and instability in the process. And the final element that I don't think we should underestimate is worker satisfaction. It is not fun. If you ever worked on a production line, it's not fun to work on a production line that keeps stopping again and again for reasons that you may not even know. It is demotivating, and it's reasons that people leave their jobs. So yeah, downtime is absolutely critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another thing is just reducing the element of human error, right? So if I'm working on a line and we see some downtime, my major focus is to get that line back up and running. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I get that line back up and running and be producing as much as we possibly can, because that's the name of the game, right? So then as soon as I get the line back up and running, now I have to go back and register that downtime. Well, how long was it down? Was it down from 11 to 11:10, or was it 10:56 to 11:17, right? So eliminating that human error element, digitizing everything, and getting accurate downtime readings, and making it easier for your operators to actually register that, rather than, hey, fill out this Excel sheet or sharpen your pencil and write this down. Let's get worker satisfaction, and let's bring that to the forefront as well. Another question: have you seen companies use factored insights to inform not just production, but higher level strategic decisions like CapEx or staffing? Yes, that's a great question. So, like we were mentioning before, this is an entire intelligence suite. So it's not just about production. We also have capabilities such as skills matrices, right? Your maintenance platform, certain things like this. What's the other thing? Creating action plans for you and multiple groups to come together and analyze what's going on. And what ends up happening is, by looking at your downtime, by looking at what your bottlenecks are and what's causing the bottlenecks, you can put together internal case studies to say, hey, maybe we need to invest in new assets. Maybe we need to invest in new machinery on this line, because this bottleneck has, if we calculate all the downtime that this specific machine or process within our line has caused us over the last year, we could have brought a brand new machine, put it in here, and we could have actually saved costs, right? So those decisions kind of go into the CapEx, staffing included. So can we afford to bring in more people, right? And by looking at your downtime, by looking at your yield, and by actually analyzing where the money's going and where you can be saving, allows you to then make better strategic decisions, like bringing in new assets, bringing in new people, and things such as that. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely not just for production, but there's a place in here to be able to analyze all of that data to make higher level decisions for your company as a whole.
Yeah, just to comment on that, I fully agree, and also this ability to find a hidden plant. First of all, I mean, the assets you have, make sure they run well. And if you can have predictable operations, and you can justify, because you need to have a capacity increase to do capital expenditure spending, the ability to know that you can do that reliably and predictably, it always strengthens the investment, because you'll get the results you want instead of just speculating.
Yeah, and to get those approvals, you need something to back it up, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to get those approvals by just saying, hey, yeah, this machine kind of is bothering me every day.
Yeah.
Maybe we should get a new one. It's a lot different than saying, hey, this machine is down 50 minutes per day every single day. Here's what that equates to over an entire year of usage. If we can structure this into our CapEx fund, maybe we can just bring in a new machine, and by eliminating that downtime, it's actually going to save us. Great question, Tim. Niels and Zach, this is for both of us, Niels. At the same time, we have to answer this question. What is your advice to manufacturers currently looking into digital and industrial transformation, but feel unsure with the current economic environment? I'll let you take that first, Niels.
Oh my God, I wish I had a crystal ball. So, one of the things I've seen is kind of interesting because people are concerned about regulations or tariffs and things like that. In my experience, most companies are quite good at working within a political or environmental environment, as long as that environment is predictable, because they can go in and make decisions on a longer term horizon, which typically is what manufacturing is all about. You invest capital in order to convert it into cash flow and profitability. And they can do that, and it's easy to do. If it's not predictable, then it makes it much harder. And it's very difficult to say what investments are going to be good and what investments are going to be bad. But what I would focus on are the things that you know is true already. Everyone wants to buy good quality products. It doesn't matter what the economic environment is or not. Everyone wants to get, when they buy something, they want to get it quickly. They make sure you focus on that. Everyone wants to pay a reasonable price. I mean, don't kill yourself on cutting the cost too much. But if you can reduce the cost, it doesn't harm. And then also, the world is not going to end. Think to the next generation. What is the next generation product that customers want to buy? How can you serve your customer better? There are things that you can focus on that are independent of the current economic environment, either if you look at it from a short-term perspective or even from a longer-term perspective. So try to isolate the ones where you have risk, and then mitigate risk early and make decisions as late as necessary, so that you understand, get visibility into what your data is, understand how you can scale up and scale down and be flexible. And once you've done that, then you can go in and make decisions. And industrial operations is to some extent a risk sport. There is risk involved, and as long as it's not safety risk, you shouldn't tolerate that. But there will always be some element of financial risk.
Yeah, I think just to tap into that, it just kind of goes back to what you were saying before. If you want to improve anything, you have to understand it and you have to be able to measure it, right? So, if in my opinion, the first investment has to be with understanding the current infrastructure and the current processes that you're utilizing, right? Because you're never going to be able to improve efficiently unless you understand what you're currently doing. So although, the current economic environment can be a little bit tricky, especially, different in terms of scale, right? From enterprise down to mom and pop shops. But the understanding and knowing what your current production looks like is the best way to be able to improve it in the future. So I think if there's a first step being made to improve your processes, you have to understand it first. Great question, Connor Franey. Where do you see the biggest missed opportunities and how food and beverage manufacturers currently use data? The biggest missed opportunities. I think it just goes back to exactly analyzing what's causing your downtime, right? Registering that downtime, knowing for a fact what's actually going on, rather than just saying, hey, we're producing, we're not producing. Missed opportunities going years without being able to put together a case study for CapEx investments. Being able to, if we would have done this 3 years ago, we would have saved X amount of money. That's one thing that I hear from plenty of our customers. Hey, I wish we would have had this 3 years ago. We would have been able to afford that new slitter, right? So I think the missed opportunities are just being able to make some of those CapEx decisions and some of those higher level decisions, such as, personnel that we're bringing in and things such as that. So the biggest missed opportunities are just understanding the current infrastructure of your production and, where some of your lapses are and where you could have improved.
Zach, I agree with that. And in addition, there are two areas in addition to that I've seen. One of them I've personally experienced many times. And, of course, you have to make sure that whatever runs inside the four walls of the plant or the fence of the site is running properly. but there is an enormous amount of opportunities outside that. So in particular in food and beverage, where you have agriculture-based food and beverage, which most food and beverage is, you have an agriculture department that is responsible for sourcing and buying the fruits and vegetables you take in. And then you have an operations that is responsible for converting that. The communication between those two departments, absolutely critical. I've seen failures in that create costs in the scale of tens of millions of dollars, actually, sometimes. Very, very big. But understanding, like, how can you source better agriculture product? How can you make sure that there is an understanding of the quality and attributes of the raw materials, the feedstock, how that influences manufacturing operations is absolutely critical. And I would say that anyone in food and beverage, don't think that all the answers are improving things out inside the plant. Also look outside the plant. The second one is really about availability of data and how you share data and how you use data. And we are seeing an enormous shift right now where, it used to be that decisions flowed down and information flowed up in organizations. Now, information becomes visible, but we still have glass walls within organizations that makes it difficult to make decisions. And we see tools such as AI agents and tools like that can help you model and help you make decisions either with a person or do it autonomously and tie it together. And I think that there is an enormous amount of opportunities for making faster decisions and therefore eliminating waste or turning opportunities into value quicker.
Yeah, I like what you mentioned too, the idea of being able to hold your suppliers accountable and being able to see the differences between supplier A, supplier B.
Yeah.
The supplier A's product run without a flaw through our line, but for some reason supplier B's products coming in and it's causing nothing but problems, right? Being able to actually analyze not only what your production inefficiencies are, but also maybe some of the inefficiencies from the suppliers and the products that you're bringing in. Thanks for the question, Cheryl. In multi-site rollouts, how do you recommend standardizing KPIs and priorities to ensure scalable impact? Standardizing KPIs. So essentially everybody wants to work off of the same framework within, especially for enterprise organizations, right? And that's why we've created that hierarchy tool to be able to standardize some of these KPIs. My recommendation is to have one process across all of your facilities. And what this does is it makes training easier. It makes employee retention a lot better. And it just keeps everybody on the same page. I think right now, one of the things that I'm seeing, especially with multi-sites and enterprise organizations, is they don't talk to each other, right? So facility one has a completely different framework, even from the digital tool set. It's completely different from facility two. And you can see with these like global CIs and continuous improvement managers that are trying to like hone in, it's a major frustration, especially with reporting, right? If you're not all functioning off the same framework, using the same digital tools, your reporting is going to be completely different. So how do we know which facility is actually functioning as best as they possibly can? So I think the recommendation there is to just standardize, as in I don't mean to simplify that question, and I'm sure you're looking for a deeper answer, but standardize, right? Standardize across your facilities. Pick the digital tool set that's going to, function and be cohesive across multiple sites, so that you can scale. What about you, Niels? What are you thinking here?
So, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but before you pick any KPI or any metric, make sure that you understand what your business is trying to achieve, because I've seen companies focusing on the wrong thing, and because of that, they measure the wrong thing and then they achieve the wrong thing, and it's very easy to miss. Yeah. So once you've done that, I think that the KPIs will then come out, and they will, there will be some standardization. If you have different plants and make completely different things, you might have different KPIs, and that's okay as long as they are clearly aligned with the business objectives. An element that we are seeing that is quite interesting is that if you have scarce resources that are subject matter experts, for instance, process engineers or brewmasters and things like that, to be able to get them to have access to data from multiple plants, which is something you can do with a cloud-based solution, is absolutely critical. And then you can create a virtual operations center where you can have someone help multiple plants within a country or across the world. And not only can that person help multiple plants, but he can also get access to information across multiple plants. So they can see patterns in one plant that can help another plant, which is really, really powerful.
Awesome. I think that was our last question. Let's see what the next slide looks like. Maybe I'm mistaken. Thanks for the question, Robert. Is there another slide? Oh, it's just us. Pretty faces. Look at this. Thank you, guys. That was our last question. In closing, first of all, thank you for joining the webinar. Some call it a webinar. I call it a journey. This was a pleasure. Thank you, Niels, for being here. This was a great time. Everybody that worked behind the scenes to put this together, everybody that showed up, thank you so much. In closing, we're going to be sending this video out. We're going to be sending the PowerPoint out to everybody who attended. If you have any questions, if you want to know the pricing, if you want to know what else we can do, just remember, we come from a consulting background. We would love to speak with you, figure out what your goals and needs are for your organization. Speak with one of us. We've got tons of AEs running around trying to help out, and we're doing a great job, and we'd like to bring you in. So again, my name is Zach. Would love to have a conversation. If you want to shoot me a message on LinkedIn, please feel free to connect with me as well. And any questions, feel free to reach out. Niels, anything in closing?
No, thank you so much, Zach, and thank you to the audience and everyone who's behind getting this done. And feel free to reach out to both me and LNS Research and take a look at what we can do to help you guys. So thank you so much. And in Europe, have a nice evening, and West Coast here, have a nice day.
Awesome. See you guys later. Thank you so much.